Hey. Oh, hey guys, how you doing? Welcome on back to the AnKorage where everything is awesome. And yeah, you can see I've got Windows logo going on here. Well, we're going to be installing Windows 11 on this non-supported piece of hardware for fun. So let's talk about that today on my quest. Well, welcome on back and thank you for checking out this video. If you happen to like this content, give it a like and comment down below. So we are going to, you shut up, I'll get back to you. Anyways, yeah, I've done it in a couple of videos before where I talked about resurrecting my machine that I call Triton. I purchased it 5 or 6 years ago to replace an HP branded all-in-one, and didn't want to use that one anymore. I wanted to upgrade, and so it was an upgrade, but also in other aspects it was a downgrade. Downgrade in, like, screen size. I didn't need 24 inches. A 22 would have been just fine, so I wanted to do that. So I went and did that, and I used it with Windows 10 for some time, and then I got Linux Mint to run off of a USB stick that I built, and boot. So it was kind of sort of dual boot. I could boot into Windows on the machine's drive itself, and I could also boot off of the USB stick for Linux Mint. And I did that for years, well, for some time. Although the past few years or so, I've got the Solaria machine, and then I've got the Odin machine. Solaria is dedicated Linux Mint Debian edition, and Odin is, of course, a Windows 10 machine currently. But with this Dell, it's interesting because I don't have any purpose for it. It's just to muck around with, hence, MuckQuest. And so I learned that Windows 11 in particular could be installed on unsupported hardware. Not that it shouldn't be, but it can be. So, I was looking into, well, I want to see if I could get it on this Dell. The hardware on it doesn't meet Microsoft's requirements in any respect. It does have TPM on it, but the processor itself isn't overly meant to be capable of it. Although I already know it runs it just fine, because I've already done that build before, as you can see in the previous video. But I'm like, why don't we do a full-blown video for it of the entire process? So I don't have any fancy software installed or anything like that. It's just to play with. There's no purpose for this machine other than doing videos on and testing things out, seeing if I could use it for stuff, or a guest that happens to need a computer separate from one of my other ones, things of that sort. So I went ahead and got that, and I'm gonna do it. So what do we need? Well, you need to download the Windows ISO, the Windows 11 ISO archive file, and I've done that. Now, it's interesting because you have to use their media creation tool, which of course it's an exe of sorts, and it has to be done using Windows to begin with. Well, I've got Windows, so I went ahead and I downloaded it. There may be other methods involved, but I haven't really looked into it. However, you have to get the Windows 11 ISO, and I've gotten that. Typically, you would use the Windows Media Creation tool. So, I did that, and then it needs to be burnt onto a USB stick, such as this one right here. This is a 64 gigabyte on brand. Of course, you can't read it because it's all the way over here, but it's an on brand, which is Walmart's in-house brand, more or less. And yeah, it's 64 gigs, but it's a USB stick, and it was less than $10. I think it was like upper 7, like close to $8. So really affordable. It's 64 gigs. I mean, I don't recommend Walmart's solutions in particular. However, it's like, as far as the funds side of things, yeah, I recommend it, especially if it's really close by. Yeah, you could get stuff off of Amazon, stuff like that, but you have to wait a day. If you're on Prime, you have to wait a day for it to show up. If you want immediate gratification, jump in the car, jump on your bike, whatever, and go to your local Walmart and grab one of these. So that's what I did for this one, because I'm all out of USB sticks. And there we go. What do we do with it at that point? So, well, you have to extract that ISO file, that Windows ISO file, onto this. Now, I've tried to do it on Linux, but however, Linux Mint Debian Edition, their ISO writer tool can tell that it's made for Windows, and they go, well, this requires a specific way to do it. You would have to use the extraction tool called Rufus. Okay, fine. Yeah, throw it on there. We'll take a peek at that, and we'll write it to this. Now, I've already written it on here, so I'm not actually going to write it onto here. I mean, this is the same install that I previously used on Triton, and I'm going to reuse it and just run the process again and install it all over again for the sake of you guys and for the sake of this video. It's MuckQuest. I'm just playing around with it for me, but this is for you guys, so we're going to do that. So then at that point, the device, or the computer, has to be set to be able to boot from the USB stick. This may require you to go into your computer's BIOS, or BIOS, however you want to pronounce it. It's all on you. I say BIOS, but we have to go into there and set your boot order to include booting from USB, or to at least allow it. There is a little bit of a cheat, it has to be able to go like that, but we're not actually going to rely on the computer to automatically detect it and boot it first. You can certainly set it to do that before it defaults to disk 0 or the OS drive for the computer itself. I am just going to mash F12, which is what it is for this machine in particular, to get the boot menu to come up and get that installed. So mash it, it comes up, and you select it and you punch it off. Now you've already seen it already launch up as I was punching in and stuff like that, but we're going to go through the process, and we're going to go through Rufus and get it etched onto, or get it extracted onto the USB stick. After that, we'll come back here and onto Triton, and we'll get it installed. So why don't we go do that? Alright, we have come over onto Odin, my Windows 10 machine, and we're going to be doing the first step here, which is actually putting that Windows ISO archive onto a USB. So we're going to be looking at that, and of course, if I was to fire it up and such, this is basically how we would see it here. So why don't we actually make this a little bit bigger and fill up the screen a little bit more.
All right, so I've got Rufus up here right on the screen. So what we've got going on is we've got the device right here, and this is the USB stick. It's already in there, and it automatically popped up as what's available. And for the boot selection, we want to pick a disk or an ISO image. Well, and it wants us to select. So we are going to go ahead and select it. It's not going to pop up, so I've already got it selected. And there we are. So Windows ISO. So there we go. Pretty simple. Standard Windows installation. We could pick that, or Windows to go. We want a standard installation. Partition scheme. Well, we're putting this into Triton, and that is only MBR. So we are just going to pick BIOS or UEFI CSM. And then you got advanced properties. We don't want to worry about that. Volume label. You can basically put in any label you want. You can just leave the standard right there. File system NTFS, that's fine. Cluster size 4096, that's fine. And then you can click on start, and it gives you a warning. All device on D will be destroyed. To continue with this operation, click OK. We're going to click OK. So it's basically, it deletes any particular partitions, formats it, and it's now creating the file system. And it's got 12 tasks. So we're going to let this go until it finishes. Okay, that is all done. So let's go back to the desktop for a quick second here. All right, we are back at the desktop, and we got Rufus here. So from at this point, we can close this out because we're done with burning the image. And if we look, there it is right there. There's the USB stick and everything. So what we've got is we've got the auto unattend script right here. So I'm going to drag this over, and I'm going to put that right in there with it. That's all we got to do. So from that point, what I recommend you do is, if you have your own custom wallpaper and other images, like your user account icon and your lock screen background, I would actually create a folder for images, and go out, get your images from pictures or wherever, and just copy them into there, and then you can eject this. So we'll do that, and that's ejected. Boom, and there we go. So we are going to go back onto Triton, and we are going to get this installed. So let's move forward with that.
So we are here, and we are now restarting the machine, and there we go. I've mashed F12. I've got this set up here. It's the boot manager. So we want to come down into the legacy boot area. I want to go to USB storage device. I want to boot from that. So I'm going to select that. It'll say press any key to boot from USB, and you have to do that. Otherwise, it's going to default to disk 0, which is your OS drive. And there we've got that. So we are going to change the angle a little bit and try to get this a little more into the screen. I don't have a screen capture card or anything like that, so I'm just going to move this thing around so that you can see it a little better. So let's do that. Alright, I think we're close enough. So I need to be able to access my keyboard and my mouse. So I'll bring that all right over. Okay, so here we go. And it says, please wait. And we got the little spinny thingy. So right now it's going through its initial process. And we are brought to select a location to install Windows 11. Now we're basically going to be leaving this alone because we've got disk 0 partitions 1, 2, and 3. And then we've got disk 0 unallocated space. We got disk 1 partition ESD ISO. This is the USB stick. You see that? 57.6 gigs, stuff like that. Well, this one is, we're going to be using the one that's already highlighted, which is disk 0, 464.7 gigabytes. And we're just going to leave that. We're not going to play with anything up here. We're just going to go ahead and click next. And now it goes in and it says, okay, installing Windows 11. Your PC will restart several times. This might take a while. 7% done already. So we are going to basically let this go, and we will come back. Okay. All right, so we are back, and we've done all of the installations, and there we go. So let's just double check here. Let's go into settings. Go into there. We'll come into the accounts and go to my info, and we will see if we can change the user photo to that. You just see how fast this is going? Let's see if this works. It may take a little tweak to get it so that it's acceptable, but you know, we'll figure it out. If I get that error on this one, then I'll have to do that little tweak, which is not a big deal. Hey, it actually worked. There it is. All right. Come back out here. We'll go to the lock screen. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Timeout screen saver. Not going to worry about that. Personalize the lock screen. We're going to select a picture. And go to browse photos. And here we go. So the lock screen has been changed as far as the picture goes. So we'll close that out. We'll do a quick little lock and see what it looks like. And there it is. Ta-da! Alright, so we'll get back into there. And there, it's unlocked. And there we go. Alrighty. So next up is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to put a pin on this thing. And as we can see on here, since I ran all of the updates and stuff, you know, some stuff did get put back on and stuff like that. We've got this new Max Audio Pro recently added. That was during the updates. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to remove this. We'll leave settings there. Why not? Okay. So, pin. Set up pin sign in. Okay. And set up. Okay, so now I need to pick it, so it's definitely not 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much, Tom. There we go. Pin has been changed. So let's do another lock real quick. This. And there we go. Alright. And get the recycle bin up here. That's empty. Let's go through the program list again. So click all. A, C, nothing. There's Firefox. We got private browsing Firefox. Boom, boom, boom. There's Max Audio Pro. I don't really need that, so yeah. This is basically what it looks like. And of course, you know, it's not exactly the fastest because this is an A6 processor. I don't really care about that. I'm not planning on doing any major work in here. So I'm going to uninstall that guy right there. And you can see here, there's no Microsoft Edge in the M section. It is gone, gone, gone. There we go. System settings, terminal, Windows system stuff, and there we go. All right. So we've got a full install. there we go. Alright, so there we go. We've got a full install of Windows 11 Pro on a Dell 3275 all-in-one. Uses an A6 processor. The RAM is fully upgraded and maxed out at 16 gigs. It's not that much of a machine to begin with. It's got internal graphics. I think it's Radeon. I could be wrong, but I don't care. You know, it's not a big performing machine. It wasn't meant to be, and it wasn't built to be like that. The machine itself is just for mucking around with and stuff like that. So it was primarily, why did I do this? Well, primarily to see if it could be done, and it has been done. So the install involved ignoring hardware requirements and, you know, not requiring TPM and not requiring secure boot, and even though it's capable of both, you know, it's an MBR formatting, partitioning, whatever, you know, not GPT. So, you know, GPT is for systems that can handle 2 and greater amount terabytes. This thing is far smaller. So, yeah, I could certainly use a drive that's bigger than 2 terabytes, but, you know, half a terabyte works just fine. And it's an SSD. The thing screams in comparison to the hard drive that was in there originally. And, you know, things of that sort. And then some. So that is pretty much going to do it for this video. Thank you very much for coming along. If you happen to like this content, give it a like, throw a comment down below, ask a question or two, if you wish. And as far as like my computer stuff goes, Windows isn't it. That's not, no. I am a Linux user, and as you can see from my Tux Quest videos, you know, that playlist going through, you know, through that. Solaria is Linux Mint Debian Edition, and it just works. And I don't have a whole lot of requirements in order to keep it working, or having it do any really complex things, or any high-end gaming, or anything like that. It's just a good, really good everyday daily driver machine that I can do my actual life productivity on it. And there we go. So, Windows, it does have its purpose for me on Odin, which is currently Windows 10. Will I actually use this process to upgrade Odin? Possibly. Scotty? Possibly. That's my laptop. Can't say for sure whether or not it's actually going to be. I mean, I keep going back and forth on it. So there we go. So, thank you very much for coming along. So, Skál, drink to victory.